It's that time of the day again.
Ah, great. Guy's gonna be late again.
Time to get informed about the nerdy things you
I
love.
got plenty of time.
On today's show, Wonder Woman 2. Is Kristen Wiig going to be Cheetah? What? Han Solo movie. The timeline revealed and international trailer drop. To you news. James Gunn says Groot is dead. Get over it, Twitter. We're going over all of that plus your questions.
I'm gonna be late!
I'm your host, Josh Lucas. This is the Nerdy News Rundown, broadcasting live from Uncanny in the King of Prussia Mall, Philadelphia. Let's get this show started. Hello, all of you beautiful nerds out there. What is going on? I'm, of course, Josh. This is the Nerdy News Rundown. We've got a ton of really awesome topics, a little bizarre, some of them to get into today. I wanted to shout out Uncanny, of course, for sponsoring the show. Uncanny is a great little shop, comics, nerdy apparel, all of this stuff over here on the table is available for purchase at any Uncanny location. I definitely know it's in King of Prussia. I really can't speak to whether or not it's for sale other places, but I assume that it is. But shout out to Uncanny. Thank you once again to Uncanny for sponsoring the show. Now, let's get right into the topics. We're going to start with a very strange one, at least in my opinion. This is pretty weird stuff. The internet was talking about how the villain for Wonder Woman 2 was going to be Cheetah. Now, that broke a couple days ago. It was a rumor. It was sort of circulating. People, had different opinions about it and whatnot. But it appears that that is not only the case, but Kristen Wiig is going to play Cheetah in Wonder Woman 2. Yes, that's right. Kristen Wiig, who is the famous SNL actress. She's going to be Cheetah. So a lot to unpack here. The internet, of course, has reacted. Now, I should say this report comes from Deadline. It's pretty much confirmed. This is the person that Patty Jenkins wants to play Cheetah. Now, if you don't know who Cheetah is a very famous Wonder Woman villain. There's been multiple iterations of her, but the version that they are going to do in this movie is the most recent version of the character, which is like this Greg Rucka rebirth version. She's going to be Dr. Barbara Minerva. Yeah, whatever. I knew how to pronounce that before the show started, and then I brain farted. But she's basically a British archaeologist who finds a relic, gets cursed by the relic. The relic grants her an incredible amount of power and strength, very similar to Wonder Woman, but not like Wonder Woman. She gets all ugly and looks like a cheetah. Now, in the Greg Rucka run, she actually hungers for the flesh of people, which is really weird, kind of strange, but that is the way that they're going to take the character in the movie. So that's the version that we're going to do. Now, right off the bat, let's talk about just Cheetah as a villain, first of all. So I think this is a pretty interesting villain to do for your sequel. We know that Wonder Woman 2 is going to be set in the 80s. That's pretty cool. And the fact that Diana works at the Louvre, or, maybe not at the Louvre at that point, but works with artifacts, with historical things, with items like that, it makes perfect sense that she would know an archaeologist. And in that run, Wonder Woman and Cheetah are friends, and Wonder Woman actually gets a lot of guilt because she wasn't able to prevent this curse from happening or cure the curse or whatever. And so they have kind of a friendly relationship before this happens, and then a very strange, very crazy, brutal relationship afterwards. So on the base level, I think that that's very interesting. I think that's a cool way to go with it. But Kristen Wiig? Really? Kristen Wiig? Oh, man. Look, I don't think I'm the only one that thinks this, but I think this is a bad choice. Now, I should preface this by saying we're not in the room, right? We don't know what they saw from Kristen. We don't know exactly the take they're trying to do in this movie. You know, you got to put all your faith in Patty Jenkins. I mean, delivered a knockout with Wonder Woman 1. So you have to respect her opinion. You have to sort of take all these things with a grain of salt. But I think the big problem here, the problem that everyone is saying or speaking out about online, is the fact that Kristen Wiig is a comedy actress, and not just comedy. It's not just that she's comedy. It's the type of comedy that she does. It's very goofy. It's very slapstick. It's hilarious. I'm reminded of the little hands thing that she does on SNL. And look, that branding, that oh my God, we just had a light go out. That was crazy. Somebody's got to fix that. But anyways, we had the fact that she is essentially that type of humor, that brand recognition, the thing that happens with her, that's going to be something that people cannot stop themselves from associating with this character. So immediately in my head, I thought of James Spader and what he did with Ultron in Avengers: Age of Ultron. And while I really do like that Ultron character, I felt like he was a little bit too quippy, a little bit too much like Stark. I would have preferred him to be a little bit more hard-edged, grizzled, you know, really truly evil. He's a little bit too funny. And so it's possible that they could do a version of that with the Cheetah character and make that work, but none of that seems like the comic book version of Cheetah to me. She's like a brutal character. She's kind of stoic. She's totally put together and just, you know, that type of a villain, not the mustache twirling type of villain. She's not like that. So immediately, my thought and the thought of a lot of people online is like, well, I don't like this, right? I don't want the goofy Cheetah. Now, the other aspect of this that people have been talking about online is that Cheetah has sex appeal. Yeah, even though she's Cheetah and she doesn't look like, you know, a human, she's still kind of sexy, right? She's still got that thing going on. And I tried to pick a picture of Kristen in the intro here, and I'll put it up again here, that shows her in a sexy light, because I think even though she's an older lady and, you know, not thought of as, you know, your atypical sexy actress, I think she can definitely still pull this off. But especially when playing across from Gal Gadot, how is that going to work exactly? That's the big problem here. That's what a lot of people are talking about. It's like, well, she's not that sexy. There's also the idea of physicality. She has to be able to literally fight Wonder Woman and showcase that strength. And a lot of that has to do with body type. So, I mean, you know, she's probably hitting the gym already if this is really happening. But those are some of the hangups that people have with Kristen Wiig being Cheetah. I mean, look, especially with the place that DC at right now, they've got a problem with their fan base. Their fan base are looking at Warner Brothers, looking at what's going on with these movies, and they have a lot of questions and they have a lot of skepticism, trepidation with all sorts of announcements. So when you make an announcement like this, or you know, it breaks that you're doing this, you got to know, you have to be aware as a company that these type of things matter. They matter to your fan base. They matter for the prospective sales and the PR of that film. Now, Wonder Woman, this is particularly like something you maybe don't want to do with Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman's the crown jewel right now. It is the thing that worked the best in the DC Extended Universe. It's the only reason that we haven't rebooted. That character and that movie is incredible. So, man, I don't know. This kind of puts a icky feeling for me, but I'm very interested to know what all of you guys think. Please hit me up in the comment section. What do you think about Kristen Wiig as Cheetah in Wonder Woman? You think it's a little absurd and really, really hope it doesn't happen? Or do you think that it's going to be okay? I mean, I always go back to the classic Heath Ledger example or Hugh Jackman example. I mean, look, there's a lot of people that were like, that's not going to work. And it worked out brilliantly. So I guess you really just never know, but that's the news out there, and I'm very interested to hear what everybody thinks about that. So let's get into our next topic of the day, and that would be Mr. Han Solo. Han Solo's got a movie coming out. You know about it. I know about it. I don't know. Are you excited for it? I'm not necessarily that excited for it, but the news out there is that we got the timeline of this film confirmed, as well as a new international trailer. So I kind of wanted to go over this. So basically, when it comes to the timeline, they have said that it will take place years before the events of Rebels, the events of Rogue One, and the events of A New Hope. And they have stated, and this is Del Rey, the Del Rey books, which handle all of the new canon Star Wars books, or at least most of them. And they have said that the Han Solo movie will take place between the Tarkin novel and the Thrawn novel. Pretty interesting. Now, there's not much to glean from that. There were some events and things that happened. There was a group of pirates that give Tarkin a lot of trouble, or in the Tarkin book, and then they're sort of dealt with in the Thrawn book in another way. It's a look. I love both of those books, by the way. Tarkin book, very underrated. Great book, has some good Palpatine stuff in it. But that's interesting. So they have a timeline for this thing. Now, what this says to me is Lucasfilm is sort of getting out in front of the questions that the canon junkies have. I'm going to repeat it more and more and more as I do more shows. Christian Harloff is kind of the flag carrier for this thing, where it's like, look, Lucasfilm, get your canon together. If part of the promise, if part of the value proposition of the new canon is that it all ties together, then tie it together, make it make sense. So I am at least happy that they have announced the timeline for Solo. I honestly don't think there's too much we can glean from it. Please let me know, is there something that happens between those books that you think will have an effect on the Solo movie? I'm really interested to hear what you think about that. But in related news, they did drop an international trailer, which I think was centralized in Japan, and there's also a new teaser poster for the Solo movie. Now, the trailer itself is sort of a combination of the two little trailers that we got for the Super Bowl, and they're cut together pretty decently, nothing too new, a couple extended sequences, but nothing really too crazy. But I was glad to see that they cut those two together, because I think they really do work well together, and they set a very good vibe for the film itself, so I'm excited that they're doing that. I'm really hoping that Solo does well. Look, Star Wars is like my thing, right? It's my favorite thing, so really, really hoping that this movie crushes, because if not, Lucasfilm is sort of in a bad spot. There's some trouble going on. So, I mean, what do you guys think about the time frame for this Solo picture? You think that makes sense? I mean, it's sort of like an obvious thing. I think they called it a layup on Movie Talk. Makes a lot of sense to me personally, but I am interested to hear what you guys think. And then, did you check out the extended trailer? Is there something I missed in there? Because it looked literally just like the other two trailers cut together. So let me know your thoughts about all of that. Very interested to talk some Han Solo movie with you guys in the comment section below. Okay, now let's get into our next topic. This one's kind of funny. I found it pretty hilarious. James Gunn went on Twitter and explained to people that Groot is dead. So my question is, if a Groot dies in a movie and everyone sees it, does it matter? And I think the answer there might be no, because for a lot of people, we thought this was obvious. We thought, look, Groot's dead, duh, and that splinter of it or whatever, whether that's a new Groot or not, people seem to really want that to be the same Groot, and I get it. Like, Groot's an awesome character in the first movie. He's hilarious. It's some of the best moments. We grow an attachment to him, but his sacrifice at the end of the film is served because he does die. And so James came out and literally clarified that the new Groot, which is Baby Groot in Guardians 2, and he'll be teenage Groot in Avengers Infinity War, that Groot is essentially the son of the Groot that we had in Guardians 1. And for whatever reason, Twitter exploded. People hated this. People were so mad. Even Netflix got in on it, saying that they will challenge this until the end of time. And so there's a lot of people that brought up all sorts of weird questions about, what exactly is Groot? How do you, asexually reproduce? What does that mean? Is it the same person? Does it have the same memories? All this really, really weird stuff. But essentially, the old Groot, we can pour one out for this guy. Pour one out for old Groot. Because according to James Gunn, he gone. He is dead and no more. So I'm pretty interested to hear what all of you guys have to say about that. I mean, like I said, I thought this was obvious. I mean, the dude, he passes away in the first movie. Wouldn't that sacrifice be sort of in vain, or like limited, or in value, emotional resonance, if it's just the same Groot? And on top of that, like, think about this. If you took a bunch of those splinters of Groot and you grew all of them, like, is it all the same person? Like, would that would that even make sense? You know? So yeah, like look, this takes us into a very, very strange, surreal area of thought, but it's a big story for some reason. People are really talking about this. So Groot is dead, or maybe not. I don't know. You tell me your thoughts about Groot passing and the new Groot, and I'm interested to hear too. What do you think? What do you think teenage Groot's going to be doing in Avengers Infinity War? I mean, I'm kind of pumped to see him. Apparently, he and Thor hang out a lot and are big buddies in that movie, so I'm interested in that. But let me know, guys, in the comment section. What do you think about Groot dying? Is it not true? Is it impossible? Is it you let me know. I'm interested to talk to you guys about that. So let's go into our last official topic today before we get into fan questions. This all has to do with Black Panther. Now, Black Panther is absolutely crushing it at the box office. It's monumental. Just on Tuesday, it broke, I think, another record. It beat out Wonder Woman domestically, and I think it currently sits at something like $750 million. And this is, before we even get into the weekend. And I've seen a lot of different stats. I've seen a lot of different speculation on this. The question becomes, is this movie going to pass Avengers in box office? And I think currently right now it is actually on pace to outperform the Avengers. It's had something like an amazing second weekend, breaking 100 million. I think it was like 109 million domestic, and that's just crazy town. I mean, that's crazy town money, okay? And so right now it is pacing to make more money than the Avengers, which would be absolutely ridiculous. Now, I think a couple of reasons that this is happening is because the movie is obviously so culturally significant that you have a lot of people that are going out to the movies that maybe don't even watch Marvel or comic book movies. In fact, some of my friends, like hardcore comic book fans, like are sort of boycotting the movie. Actually, there's somebody that I know who I work with in comics is also black and is boycotting the movie. I'm not going to throw them under the bus or talk about it because like that's their thing, but it's because they think they have all these fake Marvel fans and everything like that. And I knew right away on the opening weekend that this movie was being seen by a lot of people that have not seen Marvel movies because they got up as soon as the movie ended and they left before the post-credit scene. And so that's a huge aspect of it, right? There's this cultural effect that is happening in the Black Panther movie. I also think, look, the movie's just straight up awesome. So it's just a well-crafted movie. It does a lot of things right. The lore building's awesome. The action's awesome. It's overall a great movie. I can't wait to see it again. I might even go tonight. I'm just so busy. I just can't seem to make time to go see it again. But I am pretty stinking pumped to go check it out when I can. So it is basically because of a lot of the cultural reasons that I think it's happening. I think that it has a great international appeal for different audiences in different marketplaces. And also, it has a serious lack of competition. So I don't think there's a movie until like mid-March that will give it much of a fight for box office. And it's just absolutely obliterating most things in the box office. So really, I'm going to keep an eye on this story. Depending on what happens after this weekend, we're gonna get a pretty good idea of whether or not the movie will catch the Avengers, which ridiculous to contemplate. Now, the other side of the story, the other thing that I want to get into is what does this mean for Infinity War? Well, believe it or not, I believe this will actually boost Infinity War even more. Because really, one of the brilliant things that Kevin Feige, the whole team over at Marvel, one of the brilliant things they were able to do was treat Civil War, Black Panther, and Infinity War almost like a Black Panther trilogy. So you get introduced to his character, introduced to the world, you get his solo movie in the middle, really just dives deep on this character. And then in Infinity War, we're spending a lot of time in Wakanda, and we're spending a lot of time with King T'Challa. And so because of that tie-in, they are going to push a whole bunch more eyeballs onto Infinity War. Now, even if they hadn't done that right, Infinity War was shaping up to be one of the biggest movies of all time. It's like this 10-year-long thing. Look, we talk about it all the time. Obviously, on its own merit, which, is weird to say because it's connected to all these films. The movie's gonna do huge, huge numbers. But specific to the Black Panther story, the fact that this movie is resonating for so many people, that so many people are going to see it and getting excited and sort of being drawn into the MCU, that is a great sign, and that is going to literally give another huge boost to Infinity War. So, my personal opinion now, I think Infinity War might break some of the records. It might beat the Titanic thing. It has the opportunity to beat Avatar thing. So you're talking James Cameron money, you're talking Hollywood breaking crazy amounts of money. But man, what a brilliant strategy. And I don't know how, I mean, look, obviously they did a lot of this on purpose, but I don't know how much they were counting on this movie to make the money that it did. Maybe they knew. Maybe they knew exactly what they were doing. But man, what a launch point into Avengers Infinity War. So I'm interested. I want to hear what all of you guys think. Like, do you think that Black Panther will catch the Avengers? You think that's possible? And what do you think Infinity War is going to do now? And do you agree with me that this crazy amount of money that Black Panther is making is only going to help the Infinity War numbers? Because, man, that thing's breaking records either way. But I really do believe that just brilliant strategy on Marvel's part to sort of have the Black Panther movie and then put Wakanda as a big, big set location in Infinity War. It's just brilliant stuff. Kevin Feige, our Lord and Savior, amazing guy. So let me know what you guys think about all of that in the comment section below. All right, so let's get into some fan questions. I actually only took one fan question today, and it has to do with Ezra and Sabine. Now, this question was actually submitted by a fan, and I'm terrible right now because I'm blanking on his name, but I'm going to pull him up in a second here. But the question was essentially, because we know that Hera and the Ghost are alive in Rogue One, okay? So we know that they're alive, and the question becomes, who is in the Ghost with her? Oh, and it's Benjamin Lambert. Thank you so much for the question, Ben. And honestly, thanks for watching the show, man. You've been checking out the show, very active. I know you don't always agree with everything I talk about, but you're pretty civil in the comments, so I really do appreciate that. But Benjamin's question is basically talking about who in the Ghost with Hera, and what do we think is happening to Sabine and Ezra? Because we're almost at the end of Star Wars Rebels, right? I think next week is the finale. It's crazy. So let me address this. Part of me wants to believe that they are in the Ghost with Hera, but I really do think, and I think that this is something a lot of fans are sort of agreeing, something has got to happen with Ezra, whether or not he dies or he goes somewhere into hiding or something happens, with the Force. I think Ezra has to sort of leave the fold, because if he's in there, it just causes too many problems with what's going on with the rebellion, the fact that there's no Jedi, all these different things. So I think that sort of creates too much of a problem. So I think that Ezra will not be in there. I do think that Zeb will be in there, and I think obviously Chopper will be in there. So I think what you're going to have is a pretty lean crew in the Ghost. I think it's going to be Hera. I think it's going to be Zeb. I'm really hoping Callus and Chopper. So that's kind of who I'm thinking is in the Ghost during Rogue One. Now, I didn't mention Sabine. And so what I think is going to happen, and I've always thought this, but this is my opinion here, I think that Ezra is going to have to hide, and I think the place he's going to hide is with Sabine on Mandalore. And the reason is because earlier in this season, even in last season, they sort of play around with this idea a lot, where Ezra is on Mandalore, he's messing around with the jetpack, he's not very good at it. He even says in one of the episodes, I don't want to be a Mandalorian, you know what I mean? Which I felt like could have been foreshadowing. And depending on where we go in animation, I think that Mandalore is going to play a part in what we go over next. So, and especially because I like this idea of the Jedi and the Mandalorians sort of being together. We had the Jedi-Mandalore Wars, which are canon now, but we don't know too much about them. They're just mentioned in the Rebels. Now we know that those actually happen. And so for me, when you mentioned Tar Vizsla, and you mentioned the first Mandalorian Jedi, the Darksaber, and all these different things, I just would really love for Ezra to have to sort of hide his identity and then just go back to Mandalore with Sabine, and then they can have an arc and a story there. And of course, just because if you haven't noticed, I like shipping couples and I like the idea of where that can go. I really want them to have a child. And I want the story somewhere told of a half Mandalorian, half Jedi from Lothal child to grow up in the ways of Mandalore, to be a Mandalorian, but to be force sensitive. So that maybe it's obviously fanboy wants, right? But that is kind of where I'm going with it, man. So my gut tells me, even if I'm wrong about that, that Ezra will sort of have to do something else. He will not be able to be in the Battle of Scarif. He's not going to be able to be a part of the rebellion. His path is somewhere else, and whether that be just being in hiding, whether it be that he's dead, or whether it be that he's checking out Mortis or doing something like that, I just don't think that he can be in the proper fold of what's happening around the time of A New Hope, and even beyond that, right? So that's just my personal thing. Now, Sabine, let's say they don't end up together. I think either way, Sabine's going back to Mandalore. I think that she's got to help her family. She's got to figure that out, and she's just such an awesome character. And I, like I said, I want to see more Mandalore. So I'm hoping that Sabine goes to Mandalore. So that's kind of where my head is at with that. So thanks. Hey, thanks again for the question, man. I really do appreciate the support, Benjamin. It's been awesome, guys. Put more questions in the comment section below. I want to talk about what you guys want to talk about. And every single day at the end of the show, we're going to take fan questions. So we're going to hopefully try to get a little bit more proactive with this, reach out to people on Facebook and Twitter and different things like that. But hit me up with your questions. Really, really want to know what you guys want to talk about on this show. That's going to do it for today. Once again, I want to thank Uncanny. And guys, as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'm going to see you tomorrow.